Shireen Jones here from Healthy Now New York. That's healthynowny.com. And I'm here tonight to show you one of my favorite Mexican inspired meals in honor of Cinco de Mayo. And actually it was my mother-in-law's idea, who lives up in Massachusetts. She noticed that there was quite a bit of cilantro on sale. She said, why don't you do a Cinco de Mayo inspired meal? And I said, yes, that's a great idea. So thank you, Hope. I am going to do some chicken thighs with a lime, garlic, cilantro sort of sauce. They're going to marinate for a little bit. And they're going to roast on one side of my roasting pan, and then instead of doing a salsa, because I've sort of thought, well, I mean, you could definitely buy salsa for sure, but instead of making a salsa, since it's that time of year where tomatoes aren't that great, I decided that I'm going to make sort of a roasted inspired salsa, or roast tomatoes with the flavors of salsa. And so I have cut up some little cherry tomatoes, and I've cut my onions in some large chunks. I've cut up some garlic, not fancy or small or anything like that, and I have a few pieces of jalapeno. I'm a bit of a wimp, so I kept them large so that I could kind of avoid them, but hopefully get a little bit of the flavor and not so much of the heat. Avoid the seeds if you really want to avoid the heat, which I definitely did. So I'm going to put I'm going to scrape this into my baking sheet here, and we're going to toss that up with some oil and some salt. Here I have some salt. I'll just sprinkle that over, and I was really hoping that my onions and my tomatoes would get very jammy and delicious, and they're going to cook alongside the chicken, as I mentioned, that we're going to do with some cilantro and garlic and lime juice. So we're going to toss that in a second, put that aside, and right now I'm going to cut up a lime, and I have a lemon, and I have, just for the heck of it, I have this orange, which we have taken some peeling off for cocktails. Orange is looking a little old, although it still looks great inside. And I'm just going to squeeze those into a bowl here to begin my little marinade for my chicken thighs. And I am using chicken thighs because that's what I like. They're boneless, they're skinless, and they're going to cook very quickly. But if you like breasts, then go ahead. I would suggest because breasts are usually so large, to cut them into 3 long strips, and that way they'll get more of the seasoning and the flavors. And I don't, people might say, oh, they might dry out, but I don't think that they will. I mean, I know that they won't. I think they'll be with the marinade, which you'll put a little bit of oil in, and they will be delicious. So we have some juice in here. We're going to put some oil. I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of oil, and I'm using a neutral oil. I just happen to have grapeseed oil. You could use whatever, canola, safflower. You could use olive oil, whatever floats your boat. And my cilantro. Oh, here's my cilantro. So I washed my cilantro. I bought a lot of herbs today because I'm tired of running out. And as you can see, I have a lot of cilantro. Obviously, I'm not going to use that much. I'll probably use about this much, which is a good handful, which we're going to chop up. I'm going to save some to keep in my fridge, and then I'm going to take the rest of it, and I'm going to roll it very, very tightly in some saran wrap, and then wrap it in foil. Roll it first in the saran wrap and wrap it in foil and put it in a bag in my freezer. And then whenever I need some fresh cilantro, well, I mean sort of fresh, I can take it. It'll be frozen, but it'll just very easily crack off, and I can take some and throw it into a dish that I was going to cook. It would not be good in, say, a fresh dish like guacamole, but if you were cooking something that you wanted cilantro, it would work great because it'll be wilty and a little not so vibrant and green. But I found that that's a really great way to keep your herbs fresh in the freezer. I did try it with wax paper because I wasn't so sure about the plastic wrap and so on and so forth. It just didn't keep it as well. But we're going to put those to the side, and we're going to put our little And I have some lemon and lime that I'm gonna save and put in my guac that I'm gonna do later. Of course, you could just buy guac. That would be easy, but I didn't. Because I really like to make it. It's so easy to make it, and if you have plenty of ripe avocados, I mean, really, you can just make guac simply with lime juice and salt, and it will be delicious. And then, of course, you can add in some onion, a little bit of garlic, your cilantro. Some people put tomatoes in. That's not my thing, but once again, whatever is your thing, go for it. So, clear my space here. We're gonna put the cilantro in this marinade, and then next up, I will stir it and I will put the chicken in and we'll let it sit in here for, maybe 5-10 minutes out of the refrigerator. If you were wanting to do it for a little bit longer, then I would put it in the fridge. So I thought I would show you a quick guacamole, and I'm going to start off by dicing my onion into teeny tiny little cubes. I'm not typically one that derives a great deal of pleasure from cutting my onions up neatly. I'm more of the but for this I will do some little teeny tiny diced cubes of onion to go in my guac, because I have discovered as I've gotten older, I kind of like that little crispiness in my guacamole. And sometimes I put garlic in, sometimes I don't. Right now the garlic just seems really old and gross, and I'm just not interested in it. So I'm just gonna leave the garlic part out. This is an avocado I've had for a while. Oh, it looks pretty okay. It's got some brown parts, but that's really not a problem. So we're gonna just scoop it out in here. Maybe I'll avoid some of that. Sometimes when the avocados get old, you may have noticed they get a little stringy, and that is not fun in guacamole. So I'm gonna avoid the parts that I think might be a little stringy. And I have another avocado that I got today, which probably is not ripe enough. So there's always the conundrum of too ripe or not ripe enough, but hopefully it's still going to be delicious. Yeah, this is definitely not completely ripe, but that's okay. And so we have our onion, we have our avocado. We're going to put some lime juice, of course, the crowning glory. And I have a little lemon cut up, so I'm going to put some of that in as well. I mentioned that I like I mentioned that you can make a simple guac just with the onion, with avocado, lime juice, and salt, and that will be delicious. We've put a little onion in mine. I'm not doing this together. And so I take my fork and my knife and kind of make it into big chunks, especially this sort of not so ripe avocado here. And we're going to mix this up, and I'll probably mash it a little bit more later. And then the other thing that I like to put in it, of course, is some well-chopped cilantro to give it that just little fresh flavor. Now, the other thing that I recently heard, and it's surprising that I hadn't thought of this for a long time, is people like to put sour cream in their guacamole, which I always thought was sort of sacrilegious, but I have since learned that helps to prevent it from turning brown. So I like sour cream, and if you're not, and if you're okay with dairy, if you're not, just keep it vegan. Don't put any, you don't need to do that. You can put some sour cream, and that helps prevent it from turning brown. Okay, now we have our tomatoes here with the onions ready to go in the oven, and the chicken has been sitting in the marinade for probably 5-10 minutes, and I'm just going to take it out and put it on my baking sheet right here with the tomatoes. And we have lots of cilantro on this, and it's going to be delicious. I'm going to flatten these out, and I wanted something to give it a little color. It just looked so sort of not exciting, and so I sprinkled a little paprika on it. You could certainly put some chili powder, and I chose paprika. And so I'm trying to get all the cilantro here out of this chicken juice thing, whatever. We're going to put that on the side. So now I have this great sheet pan ready to go in the oven. This is going to cook for about 25 minutes at 375. So while my chicken is cooking in the oven and the tomatoes are getting all jammy, we hope, we are going to prep our beans that we're going to have with it. So tonight we're going to have the chicken with this sort of salsa-inspired jammy tomatoes. We're going to have guacamole, and we're going to have frijoles of a certain kind. You could refry them, mash them, you could use a can, you could cook them from scratch. With the whole heirloom bean craze thing going on, I have a whole drawer full of all kinds of Rancho Gordo beans here. But these take a little bit of time to cook. See, even more. You gotta use your Instapot if you want to make those quickly. Anyways, we're gonna do it really quickly with this can of black beans, and I'm gonna open it up, rinse it in the sink, although you could just keep it in the juice that comes in the can. That's totally up to you. Some people don't like it, some people do. It sort of adds it makes them a little thicker. They usually need a little salt out of the can, and then I have roughly chopped some garlic, and I have one little ring of jalapeno to put in there for flavor, and then I will season my beans with cumin and some coriander and possibly some chili powder. So those will just simmer up, 5-10 minutes. You're just adding some extra flavor to your black beans. You can mash them up if you want to have them that way. You could serve them with cheese. That sounds really good. Or not. Don't do it if that's not your thing. And then at the end, if you'd like, what really will punch up your beans is some fresh cilantro. But be sure to put the cilantro in sort of at the end, maybe 1 or 2 minutes right before you're ready to serve them, so that you get that fresh herbaceous flavor if you like that. If you don't like cilantro, then leave it out. So the chicken and the tomatoes smell delicious, baking away in the oven. I've got my beans bubbling away back here. My guac is just resting over here. I should probably put it in the fridge. I haven't put the sour cream in it yet because I tasted it and it's just so delicious just on its own. And I may not even put the cilantro in because I think I'm just loving the way just the lime and the salt and the onion and the avocado is working. So what would Cinco de Mayo be without a margarita? So this is our favorite recipe for a margarita. We are missing one key ingredient, that would be the Cointreau, but never fear, we have some curacao, which is also an orange flavored liqueur, and it will work just fine. So the proportion is, first of all, I want to show you this great little measuring cup here. It's a 1/4 cup, but it also has ounces, so we end up using this more than a jigger for making our cocktails. So it goes up to 2 ounces. So it calls for 1.5 ounces of your tequila, 3/4 of an ounce, and 1 ounce of your Cointreau, 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice, and 1/4, but we use less. We use about 1/8 of your agave, which is a slight sweetener. You could use some simple syrup or something like that if you don't have agave. And then you put it all in your shaker with ice, and you shake it all up, and then you drain it into your cocktail glass and enjoy with your delicious Cinco de Mayo meal, which I am going to show you how everything looks when it's all done. So finally, our Cinco de Mayo dinner is all ready. We have our cilantro lime marinated chicken thighs and our jammy salsa inspired tomatoes. We have our guacamole, we have some black beans, maybe I'll make a little salad, and we also have our margarita. So happy Cinco de Mayo.